We're in a grade 2 listed Georgian mansion set in 52 acres. Now this isn't just another seminar, it isn't just a mastermind, and it isn't just a retreat. It's a room built for people that think in decades and not just days. For people that want to build something that outlives them. This particular event's theme is called The Point of Impact, and you're going to see exactly why over the next few minutes. And if that is any way of interest to you, then you get to see a peek behind the curtain of what's going to be happening here at the Evolve Legacy over the next few days. Everyone in this room is successful by most people's standards. However, what we're focusing on now is fulfillment and continued growth and continued contribution as a result of the projects they're working on and creating an environment where they can think bigger, think bolder, and take more decisive action. The Evolve Legacy exists to be able to close that gap from the person that you are to the person that you're capable of becoming and the legacy that you are capable of building whilst you're still here in a way that's meaningful to you and has an impact on others. We're set here in 52 acres of Essex countryside, and yes, it's a beautiful building, and yes, we've got some great facilities, the swimming pool and the gym and the sauna and the hot tub, and that's all wonderful to be able to create an environment to relax and refocus. But the real important work, that happens in the ballroom just through there, where we'll be masterminding, where I've got a guest speaker coming in, and then of course we've got our top secret experience. And then of course we need to eat whilst we're here. So we have breakfast, we have lunch, we have dinner together, and we have snacks from Sam, who is our in-house chef. There he is, the man here. He's an award-winning, 2 Rosette award-winning chef, and he's going to be looking after us whilst we're here when it comes to all things food. Today is the first full day of the Evolve Legacy for Q2. The first thing that we're going to be doing is a tool of mine. It's an exercise called the self-love list. So we're going to be identifying what people love to do by themselves, what they love to do with others, and make essentially an awareness of whether they've actually been doing it or not. And then we put that into a more practical process by using another tool of mine, which is an exercise they're going to be doing called the new ideal week. Because if you don't fill your day with high value priorities, your day gets filled with low value distractions. So being able to design a new week means they don't default to the week that they're experiencing right now. So if we can fill it with things they love doing by themselves, things they love doing with others, things that energize them, enthuse them, then they get so much more out of the week. And so I love sunrises. It's one of my things I just mentioned. And I love going out, sitting out there in the summer, watching the sunrise, having a nice cup of coffee. We're talking about nice coffees, being coffee snobs. When I'd sit out in my journal and I would journal, I would write out things I'm grateful for, I would hear the birds tweeting, I would walk out with no shoes on and ground myself in the grass, and it was just amazing. And I was loving these Saturdays and Sunday mornings, being out there, I say in nature, I was sat in the garden. It wasn't sort of I'm out in the middle of nowhere. And it was just beautiful seeing the sun come up. And it dawned on me in the June, I was like, I love doing this. Why don't I do it more often? And the reason I didn't do it more often was because my alarm goes off at 5:10, I snooze it twice, and then I do my meditation, and then I'd get up, I'd be in the gym for 6, I'd do an hour in the gym, I'll get out the gym, get showered, get changed, then I would jump in the car, drive to the office, because often I'll have a client at 8 o'clock. It dawned on me the only reason why that's the case is because it was set up to be like that. And I made a decision that I want to change that. So one day a week, which for me was then on a Wednesday, I would have another morning out in the garden, journaling, coming up with creative ideas, thinking of new tools for clients, being creative essentially. So I made that decision. I said, I'm not seeing a client before 10 or 10:30, I can't remember what I said. And I loved it. And then I did that for the rest of the summer. And then I made a decision in the October, I want to do this even more. But I realized that I wasn't in a position to be able to do that, so I had to make a plan for it. And I thought realistically, it was going to be January. But what I did was I created my new ideal week. So I put the structure in place of what I wanted it to be. 3 days a week, I'm not seeing clients before 10. And then I said, right, well, what has to now happen? If that is my structure, I'm not seeing clients before 10, 3 days a week. Fridays, I'm not doing any client work, except for certain exceptions that I created, things like if it's a bank holiday and various other things. And I'm going to fly either on a Friday morning or a Friday afternoon. That's what's going to happen. what needs to happen in the next 4 months to make that possible? And I come up with a whole load of things that I had to do to be able to make that possible. But I just want you to just give some consideration to what would a new ideal week look like for you. Maybe yours isn't the same as me. Maybe yours isn't that you're not going to do certain types of work before 10 a.m, but it might mean that you're going to finish at a certain time. The idea of it is I really want you thinking about how do we make time, because there's no such thing as I don't have the time, it's just what we're prioritising. How do we make time to ensure you're doing more of the things that you actually really want to be doing? Once we've done that, then we're going to be going into the masterminding component of the day, where people will be bringing their problems, their opportunities, their challenges, and their ideas. And we're going to be brainstorming around the room to be able to enable to crowdsource the knowledge, the network, the resource, and essentially the intelligence within the room to help them leave with those ideas developed or those problems and challenges solved. Are we enjoying the journey and doing some of the personal things that are on the self-love list, the things we love doing with others? Are we prioritizing those as much as the other things that we want to be doing? If the answer is yes, great. If there's things that you're doing in your working week or in your week that you would want to be doing more of and they're not getting done, then the best way to make that happen and increase the probability of that happening is to make time for it. To do a brain dump of all of the things you love to do by yourself. Now, they might be things that you're already doing every week, and it might be things that you love to do but you haven't done in months or years. And then the same for things that you love to do with others, things that you might be doing every week and things that you maybe haven't done in months or years. So what we're going to do is just get intentional around how many of these things have we been doing. Then I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to be asking you about thereafter. Now, what we do at mealtimes is I have a list of key questions, great thinking questions that we have as a topic conversation, table conversation all together to get to learn more about each other, and some really challenging questions within that. And then in the afternoon, we're going to our top secret experience. The point of impact for me, yes, we want to push ourselves out of our comfort zones. Yes, we want to try and do bigger and better things, but we also want to make sure we're nailing the very thing that we are setting out to do. And nailing that from an impact perspective and making sure we're making the impact, but also nailing it for ourselves, making sure we're having a bit of fun along the way. So we want to make sure that we are hitting the targets. So yes, we're going to be doing a little bit of archery, going to be doing axe throwing, just to make it a little bit more exciting. And then in addition to that, we want to make things a little bit more mobile. So we are also going to be doing laser clay pigeon shooting against each other. We just had great fun doing our point of impact experience with the axe throwing and with the archery and with the laser clay shooting. And I think that yes, we want to have an impact, we want to have fun, we want to generate fulfillment as a result of what it is that we're working on. So that for me was something that's really important, but it also brought out the competitive side. And I am absolutely delighted to announce that I was the winner. So here we are, day 2. After a wonderful day yesterday, we've now got another action-packed day. We're just about to kick off and have breakfast together, and then we're gonna be going into the room to be doing more masterminding, and then I've got a guest speaker. Now this particular guest speaker is a world traveler, world adventurer, and he's got an amazing story about he just had an idea and decided, even though his family couldn't sail, that they were going to go and sail around the world when he had 3 children under 10. So he's a great example of setting a big, bold goal and striving towards it and working out how you're going to do it afterwards. He's a phenomenal speaker. I'm delighted to have him. It's an honor and privilege to be able to have Casper Craven come and speak to the group.
Hello, I'm Casper Craven, and we're here today at Evolve Legacy. And I'm here today to talk about the Big Bold Mindset. It's a book that I wrote, which is all about how do we navigate a new world, because I think the rules of the game have changed. This for me is all about transformation. It's all about change. How do we approach that, both in our businesses and personally as well? What's my background to doing that? I've sailed twice around the world. I've sold businesses, and I've been on a personal transformation journey over the last 30 years. So some of those insights, some of those ideas that I want to share with everyone today. So what's the benefit of the big, bold mindset to all the incredible entrepreneurs that we're speaking with today? For me, it's about rethinking the rules of the game. It's about the mindset that we need to tackle this world that is changing faster than ever, because I think the way that we used to think is now changed. So this enables people to have more courage, to take better decisions, to move more swiftly, to adapt that learning mindset so we can really move forward at speed. So it's intended to be thought-provoking, challenging, and giving you fresh ideas to play with so that you can transform and grow both your business and your personal life. So for me, this whole notion of thinking bigger, with so much change going on in the world right now, we can feel so overwhelmed with all those different things. And for me, my starting point is going out and imagining a very, very different future. I started in this place here. This is my business partner, Ed, back in 2009. My default position, just like Ed there, headphones on, head down, push hard, and just keep trying to work through things, doing exactly the same as I was doing before. I remember it all came to a head when I had a phone call from, it was my first ever client. His name was Ian Emery. He signed us up to work with his law firm. Basically, Ian called me up and said, although we've worked together for the last few years, we're switching to one of your competitors. And I remember that phone call like it was yesterday. It was one of those things that just hits you really hard, and suddenly you realise that just working harder on its own was not enough. And I see this at every organisation I work with around the world, where the rules of the game are changing, where people are facing hard questions, whatever sector they're in. And I think the answer is starting to ask those different questions. We started being really, really ambitious with our questions. We said, what does our first £1 million client look like? And given we were selling software for 300 quid a month, which got hammered down with margin to 150 quid a month, everybody said, well, you're nuts, you can't ask those sort of questions. And I'm like, no, I want to think ambitiously. We need to think differently. What's the business that nobody would ever want to leave? How do we make our customers feel so valued, so looked after they wouldn't want to do that? We had to come together as a team to start to say, what's our North Star? Because I realised through that whole process of being challenged and not recognising that, we had started to become burnt out as a team. We'd started to become disconnected. I would go home and all the arguments from work, I'd take them home and have the same arguments with my wife. We came up with our narrative. We said we want to be the world's best data treasure hunters. And we started to coalesce around this story of the future, the things that would make us feel proud, the things that would make us feel excited if we could go and achieve it together. Like many of you, right? You set ambitious goals and all those reasons come racing into your head about why it could never work. Not enough resources, the market's too tough, some of our best people have left. All those different questions were racing around our head, and the pressure to sort of dial back the size of our ambition, come up with something more sensible, more realistic, was overwhelming. It was in parallel with this pressure to scale back at work, that Nicola, my wife, and I, we sat round our kitchen table, and using the same process that we used at work, we started to say our life's pretty rubbish at the moment because I'm working 16, 18 hours a day. We're not seeing each other. Whenever we see each other, we're arguing, not spending time with the kids. And it was just like, okay, this is not sustainable. So similarly, in exactly the same way as we come up with a vision statement at work, we came up with a vision statement at home. And we said, what do we want our life to look like? What's the narrative of our life? Rather than just being two different people going along the same path. I think for the first time, Nicola and I really started to listen to each other. There's this process I call deep listening, where you really become so present with each other and start to write that narrative. We literally, on that sheet of paper there, wrote out our mission statements for what we wanted to do together as a family team. And in exactly the same heartbeat as we came up with that mission, all those reasons why it would never work came racing into my head. The first thing is we didn't have the money. Nicola, she'd been on a boat twice. She'd been seasick both times. And we didn't have a boat either. Loads and loads of good reasons why that idea should never have got off the ground, and we should have dialed back and gone for something more manageable, more sensible. You know, what happens inside your minds when you think of those, massive goals, especially when all those pressures are coming on us and the days just literally get filled with all the different things we need to do, that sense of overwhelm, that sense of we need to be doing so many different things. How do we break out of that? And I think this is the challenge that we all face, is creating that space to look at what's changing in the world, to what is going on differently and start to navigate that. So the challenge is, how do we balance all those different things together? I hope there's been some thought-provoking ideas, some different things that you can go and play with there. You know, as you leave here from these couple of days, I always like to think, you know, this conversation, it's a blank page. What's going to be that story? You're holding the pen. What's that narrative? Home life, work life, where is it you want to go in the future? And then going intentionally making that happen. Thank you.
There we have it. The Evolve Legacy Q2 2026 is over. It's been a fantastic couple of days with the members of the group. They've been challenged, they've been pushed out their comfort zone, they've had a bit of fun, we've had some fantastic food, and ultimately it's been a powerful bonding experience to help them unlock their next level of potential, performance and purpose. If this is the sort of experience that you would love to be a part of, then please feel free to get in contact. We'd love to have a conversation with you. There's some information down below, and ultimately we might be able to see you at our next one. Until next time, live a life you love.